Welcome to This Day and Everything Cool for March 31st. On this day in 1999, Keanu Reeves knew Kung Fu.
I know Kung Fu.
The sci-fi action movie The Matrix opened in theaters across North America, opening our minds with its unique blend of pulse-pounding visuals, heavy philosophical concepts, and badass fight choreography. Written and directed by Lily and Lana Wachowski, The Matrix tells the story of a computer hacker who discovers that the entire world is really a futuristic simulation designed to keep humanity enslaved. And when he frees his mind, he takes on the robotic oppressors in the most stylish ways imaginable. It's sometimes easy to forget just how much of a cultural impact The Matrix had when it first came out. For starters, its visual style defined an entire era in cinema, with countless other films imitating it for years to come. It was also the first film to popularize bullet time, which was ripped off by pretty much every action movie for the next decade. The philosophical themes explored in The Matrix also introduced an entire generation to concepts that had never been explored in action movies before.
There is no spoon.
The Matrix was followed by two sequels which aren't as well remembered, but it's safe to say that The Matrix stands as one of the most important movies ever made.
Free your mind.
It's a good thing the Wachowskis didn't try to create The Matrix a few decades earlier, because they might not have been able to. On March 31st, 1930, Hollywood began implementing the Motion Picture Production Code, also known as the Hays Code. It was basically an exercise in self-censorship, with all the major studios agreeing to make their films adhere to a set of moral and cultural guidelines put forth by conservative politician Will H. Hays. Before that, movies were actually allowed to be as violent and profane as the filmmakers wanted, and they could also explore social, cultural, and religious issues, but under the Hays Code, they began being much more conservative and much less interesting. For example, the Hays Code forbid things like the ridicule of religion, depictions of interracial marriage, and any sympathy for criminals.
I'm taking over this territory.
It changed the entire industry and is the reason why most American movies produced in the 30s, 40s, and 50s are so boring. Thankfully, the Hays Code was abandoned in the 1960s as a new generation of younger, more open-minded filmmakers took over the studio system.
I'm walking here! I'm walking here!
It was replaced by the much less restrictive MPAA rating system that continues to this day. Several big video games have been released on March 31st. In 1999, the first Roller Coaster Tycoon game coasted onto the PC, introducing players to a whole new genre. It was the first amusement park management game, allowing players to build and run their very own theme parks, complete with attractions, finicky customers, and roller coasters, obviously. The game's creator, Chris Sawyer, had previously worked on other simulation games like Transport Tycoon, but that and similar games like the SimCity series didn't have nearly as cool a concept as creating your own amusement park. Roller Coaster Tycoon was a hit and spawned an entire series of sequels and spin-offs. On March 31st, 1997, the first-person shooter genre got closer to conquering consoles. Doom 64 was released on the Nintendo 64, becoming one of the first-person shooter games released on a console. There had already been a handful of FPSs released on consoles at that point, like Wolfenstein on the Super Nintendo and Alien vs. Predator on the Atari Jaguar, but Doom 64 was the first that was comparable to the PC. Not only did it offer fully 3D environments, but the character models and weapons were arguably an improvement over the PC version. Doom 64 wasn't as well received though, but it did show that the first-person shooters could work on a console. It wasn't long before the genre really took off on consoles. The original GoldenEye was released on the N64 a few months later.